Right. So yesterday we have seen how exactly we could associate certain image with the applications, and you also have understand the concept of document object, the concept of static resources. All right. So whenever we wanted to use any sort of file in Salesforce from an external, right, we first of all would require to store it. We first of all would require to upload that content into the document object. And the static resource could be of any form of file. It could be a text document, an image file, a Word document, an Excel document, or maybe a PDF file as well. And there are a few other file formats that is being supported by the Salesforce. So you can go with help.salesforce.com, and there you can Google for this. There you can type for this. You will be going to get the list of all those extensions, all those file formats that are supported by the Salesforce, right? So that was one part of this. Now, second, let me start the new concept, a new thing called as an objects. All right. So when I actually have given you one introduction in one of my previous session where I told you that when we are saying about objects in Salesforce, so what exactly is an object? So if you remember, I explained you that the object itself is a business entity, right? Whenever we are proposing a CRM, sorry guys, I'm not doing good by today. I'm, I'm having certain health issues. Just try to cope with me, all right? So I could sound a little drowsy and a little tired. That's all because of my health. But you have to be very attentive, all right? You have to concentrate, all right? So see, whenever we are proposing a CRM to somebody, all right, or maybe we are having, we are in the discovery phase, we are actually getting the requirements. That time we would try to understand, we would try to understand what are the entities over there on the business, all right, what are the things that business is using, what I mean, like, for example, if your client belongs to a certain different organization, and he's describing you like how the entities of my businesses are, or it could be simple, it could be a simple thing, it could be a detailed one as well. So we first of all try to you first of all try to match the things with the Salesforce existing object. That is what we do. Understand, this is a very what I'm telling you is a decision we as an architect, we used to take this decision. You have to understand this because this is something which is important. See, what I am saying to you like is an object, there are two types, a standard object and the custom objects. Standard objects are basically those objects. Standard objects, they are basically those objects which are already there, which is already there, and Salesforce is very rich into this. See, if I show you how many standard objects are there, there are a way to see that as well. There are way to see that objects as well. I'll be showing you that, don't worry. So standard objects basically, are those objects which are already there inside the OR, which are already there inside the OR. And custom objects are the one which we have created. All right, which we have created. We are also about to create few objects in Salesforce. We will be creating few of them so that you would understand how exactly the objects and the fields are actually created inside the Salesforce CRM. But see, when you are creating certain custom object, there are few of the governor limits that you have to follow. And why there are governor limits in the Salesforce that we have discussed, in the yesterday's session itself. You remember one thing I told you that Salesforce follow Salesforce follow. Yeah, Salesforce is built upon a multi-tenant architecture. What do we understand with the multi-tenant architecture? As the tenant itself means what? Tenant itself means an object, right? Organization. So multi-tenant, what it means? It means multiple organization. And how do we have understood this? On a single server instance, on a single server instance, there are at least 8,000 different organizations that are actually accommodated inside that, right? So that is what a multi-tenant means. So when there are so many different organizations and all of them are trying to access the resources of Salesforce, right? There must be some boundary for there must be some defined limit for everybody. There must be a defined quota for every one of them, right? And that particular quota, that particular set of rule, we call it as a governor limit. So this is a most common question for every interview. Remember this. See, I'll tell you one thing. I'll tell you one thing. Apart from the scenario based questions, because that there you have to apply your common sense, your knowledge of the Salesforce. Apart from that part, the real time scenarios, rest all other thing, rest all of other questions that they would ask you in interview. Everything is being covered inside your training. I would be sharing you few materials as well. I'll be sharing. I have so many things for your learning purpose. And I'll be sharing, gradually, but I'll be sharing everything with you guys. You are going to assign with the mentors. Mentor, they are also going to see you. If you ask them, sir, could you please provide me something so that, I could learn the more questions of Salesforce and what they would be providing you. They would be providing. And it is a general trend in my class that, when somebody is giving interview, let me try to show you something. Whenever somebody is giving interview, we ask every one of them to pose the questions, whatever they have faced. Any exceptional question apart from, if I mean, apart from something like what we have given to them, let me try to show you something. Let it get loaded. So whenever somebody in a class, he gives an interview. All right. So he posts whatever the exceptional was being asked to him, right? He posed that question. I'll be showing you that. Let this WhatsApp get loaded first of all. All right. So these are some of the common interview questions. And whenever I highlight something that this is something which we ask in an interview, you have to be very cautious. You have to somewhere in your own notes you have to write it down. Why there are governor limits in the Salesforce. All right. And then you have to explain them the few of the governor limits as well. Now coming back to the topic, right? Coming back to this, see, when we consider object, what is an object that already had discussed? Any real world entity that you wanted to map in Salesforce. Any real world business entity if you wanted to map in Salesforce. Any business entity that you wanted to represent inside Salesforce CRM. This is something, an object which represent this entity in real time business. Whenever we map something, uh, whenever we, whenever we make a representative of that particular entity in Salesforce CRM, like if there is an entity called as teacher, student, exam, university, salesperson, sales representative, managers, availability, whatever. There could be different terminals. Pick any one of them. And for that entity, if you create something inside the Salesforce, or you rather map it with some existing, that is what it is called to be an object. That is what it is called to be an object. So what is an object? Object is a real-time entity. It's a real-world entity. It's a business entity. Now, objects there are of two types: standard and a custom. Standards are those that are already there in Salesforce, and the customs are the one who you would be creating inside your. But understand, when you are creating the custom objects, you have to follow a governor limits. What are that? The developer edition, what we are using right now, in this edition, we could maximum create 400 custom objects, not more than that. And with the unlimited edition, you can go and create 2000, up to 2000 custom objects, not more than that. This is what a governor limit we have to understand, we have to follow, and also we have to remember this. In a developer edition, I could maximum create 400, and in the unlimited edition, we could maximum create 2000 custom objects, not more than that. Not more than that. All right. So let me try to show you how we can see the objects. We'll first of all cover everything. It's like the first one is like by the standard navigation. All right. So see, if you wanted to get the list of standard objects, go with setup menu. Although it would not show you the complete list, but yeah, few what I could say, few frequently used object of all clouds, right? So go with build menu. Then after setup, go with build menu and just expand this customize. Whatever the names you see over here, like campaigns, leads, accounts, contacts, notes, opportunities, these are what? These are the name of standard object. The list, this list, email, location, chatters, individuals. These are what? These are the list of standard objects. These are the list of standard objects. But I'm not saying one sentence. See what I'm saying, just concentrate. I am saying this is a list of standard objects. Do I said to you that it is a complete list? No, it's not a complete list. Salesforce doesn't have this much only, right? It's have so many objects. This is the list where you can see frequently used standard objects from the clouds, right? And you don't define it. Salesforce itself have defined. That was the first way. All right, that was the first way to see the objects. This was about standard object. I am coming to the custom object. Don't worry, I'll come into that. All right. The second is by using a developer console. All right. If you wanted to see the complete set of list, go with like, your name, expand it, go with developer console. Now, inside the developer console, you will be going to see the complete list of objects, and it includes the standard and custom, both of them. So just go to the file menu and click open, and then select the objects as the entity. All right. Select objects as the entity. When you select the object, see, this is the list of complete object. And then it will show you all list. I mean, your standard as well as custom. Now, see, we so far we have not created, we haven't created any custom object. Now, for now, at least I could say that this is the list of standard objects only. Why? Because custom object तो है ही नहीं अभी, तो नहीं है तो कुछ भी दिखा रहा है तो वो क्या है? They are the standard. But आप इसको याद नहीं रखेंगे ना, आपको ये याद रखना है कि by the way, developer console is that, developer console is that place. And when I mean, where I could see the list of complete objects. You can see there are so many objects over here inside the Salesforce. There's so many objects. That is what I was trying to say. Salesforce is very rich, in terms of objects. It has so many objects, built-in objects. All right. The next to see is the schema builder. See, if I compare these two techniques, if I compare the standard navigation with developer console, right? If I compare this technique, when you expand the customize, right? This is the first standard navigation. Or this is for the, I mean, this is for your standard object. If you wanted to see the custom object, you have to go with create menu and then click on the objects. Then click on the objects, right? So you would be going to see the list of all custom objects. We haven't created anything, so obviously the list is blank. But when after creation, you are going to see the names over here inside this table. All right. So let's try to make a small comparison, right? So with the standard navigation, like either going with create menu and clicking on the object, or rather going with, if you wanted to see the list of standard objects, to go with the customization. This is the standard navigation. This is what standard navigation. Let's try to add in comparison with developer console technique. The second technique, what I taught you is like go to your name, go to this, right? And then open, Control O, you can press objects, and then you can get the list. So if I compare both of them, the major difference between a standard navigation process and a developer console, like in standard navigation, first of all, there are two different ways, there are two different paths. If you wanted to see, for example, standard objects, you have to go with customize. If you wanted to see the custom object, you have to follow a separate path. So basically, there are two separate paths, right? There are two separate paths. One to look into the standard object, and second one to look into the custom object. All right, that was the first. Second, even though if you are looking into the standard, that you go to sell, you go to customize when you're expanding. It would also, I mean, it would display you the standard object, but that is not the complete list. These are the two limitations with the standard navigation technique. But when you go to the developer console, first thing, there's only one navigation. You just have to follow one path. And what is that? Just go to the file menu and open. And in the entity type, select this object. But the list, what you are looking right now, it would display you all of the standard, all of the custom objects as well. All right, that is the first difference. So there is only one part to be get followed. And moreover, the another advantage is like, you just don't, whatever it is displaying is the complete list, not like, in the, when you go to the customize, it would display only few standard objects. So these are what, I mean, the technological comparison, right? All right. The third technique is actually to go with the schema builders. By the schema builder also, you can see the objects. So how to get to the schema builder, how to get to the schema builder. So you first of all would require to go to the setup menu and again go to the customize, when you go to the custom, all right. No. You don't require to go to this. Rather, you just require to go to build menu. And when you go to the build menu, right, at the last, after lightning bolt, you can see a schema builder is over there, right? Just make a click onto that. Just make a click onto that. And see, this is what a schema builder is, right? Let me clear out everything. Let me bring certain objects like account. See, when you project an object onto schema builder, right? What is the difference between other two? The first, schema builder is a graphical tool. See how an object looks over here, like, and I could even select an account from here as well, right? If I select an account from here, right, this is account object. These all are the fields of an object and their respective data type. These all are the fields. These all are the fields. How this has been represented over here and how this has been represented over here. You could simply, you could simply compare it. The first observation that I get, your schema builder is a graphical tool. The schema builder is a graphical tool. Else your developer console is not a graphical tool. All right. So this is the first good thing. This is the first good thing. Now let me show you one biggest advantage of using an schema builder. One biggest advantage. There is an account object and there is a case object. And I could see one thing, that there is a line between both of them, which is connecting, which is connecting contact with the account, which is connecting contact with the account. What this line actually indicates? Relationship. Look up master detail external kya hai, baad mein dekhenge. What does this line actually indicates to me? It's a relationship. There is a relationship from case to account. There's a relationship between case to account. You are going to learn a topic called as relationships. All right. I would be describing you things in detail over there. But right now, let me, just let me tell you one thing, that it's a very usual thing. It's a very usual thing in the CRM process that objects are related with each other, even in the real time as well, even in the real time as well. For example, let's consider that we are trying to form a structure, all right, where I am having senior manager or maybe a delivery manager, project managers. All right, these are the individual entity. Let's say there is an individual entity called as project manager. Then there's another entity called as delivery manager. Now see, project manager is associated to delivery, or maybe delivery manager is associated to project manager. Now this delivery manager have so many technical leads. So all of the technical leads, they are associated with delivery manager. Now this individual technical lead, they also have one team of software developers. So all of these software developers, they are associated with what? They are associated with the team leads. So it's a very usual thing. It's a very usual thing to have to that the entities are related to each other. The objects are related to each other. They're having certain sort of relationship, right? It's a very usual thing for every business process. Students are related to what? Students are related to colleges, or maybe students are related with some like branches, years. These are related to colleges. Colleges are related to university. Universities are related with some of the government organizations, those who are responsible to give the affiliations and all that. So there's always a relationship. There's always a relationship between one entity to another entity. So whenever we see this, if right now with this, I could say you that cases are related with account. Every case record is having a relationship with the account. Every case record is having a relationship with the account. So if you look into the object from standard navigation, like if you look it from here, you won't understand where is a relationship. If I make a click onto account, right? If I make a click onto account, it would rather display me all of the fields of accounts. I could see the entities, but I don't understand is there is a relationship. If I bring the object onto developer console, that time also I won't understand. So see, whenever in a real time as well, listen this very carefully, guys. Whatever I'm telling you is my own real time practices. Whatever I have been taught and what I am doing right now, there's a vast gap into this. When I was taking my training of the Salesforce, right, these baby steps were not being taught to us. Because when we were learning the Salesforce, actually, they were considering us very mature in technology, probably. हो सकता है वो हमको बहुत बड़ा समझते थे. And they have make this assumption कि ये तो इनको आता ही होगा. Because they come to learn the Salesforce, तो इतना तो इनको पता ही होना चाहिए. Either it was their assumption, or the second possibility could be like even they don't know it. Why? Because I was not sure that our mentors, those who are preparing, those who are teaching us the Salesforce, whether they are actually when they are working in a company or not, maybe. Because they were lagging with one thing, they were lagging with one thing, and that was something called as a real time, real world experiences. But चलो ठीक है, गुरु तो गुरु ही होता है, चाहे जितना भी पढ़ा दिया उसने पढ़ा दिया. And all because of that only now I'm into this field. So I have to be a very grateful to him, that if he don't taught me तो मैं इतना भी नहीं आ पाता था. तो all right, no problem. So he has taught me lot many things, but then I realized one thing with almost all professional trainers, because I have taken trainings like of the Salesforce, then integration separately, lightnings I have taken separately, marketing cloud. So everywhere, in all of those professional trainings, I mean, I have been associated with so many brand names. I have taken trainings from these guys. There was one thing, which I commonly felt that they all of them were lacking. They try to explain you very good concepts, but they were not being able to relate it with actual real time things. But the way is no, when I am actually taking you this training, my way is little bit different, and that is the reason I require lots of time to explain the concepts. So whenever you join us, that time itself we say about this. We would going to require somewhere around 7 to 8 to 9 months to complete this whole syllabus, because there are so many things to be get discussed. We teach it from the ground level. So understand one thing, these are something very important things which I'm explaining you. Whenever see, if you join a project in middle, probably, I mean, if there is an organization that the development is going on, and the senior developer, or maybe somebody, a junior or associate or trainee, whatever, a developer in the team has left because he probably got a fresh opportunity. People in ITC, people used to migrate very quickly. That's a usual trend. If you are staying with an organization till the time the project is completed, the organization is very grateful to you. Otherwise, there is no bonding. There is no bonding. People, even this transition ratio, this iteration ratio is very high in IT, and that is why we are always hunting in the resources. We are always in a hunt of resource. So, abhi jaise ki I also put up have resignation. I got this offers and all that, but then I was being involved. See, I was being involved into two projects. One where I am doing the development from the scratch. Second, I'm providing developer support. Now, this job, developer support, doesn't have any end. Till the time the client wanted your support, he would pay my company. He would pay my company for my role. So there is no end for developer support, of course. It all depends on your client. But when you are developing something in the first project, what I mentioned, I mean, I was developing something, so that have been covered, and now we are having a stable version inside the production itself. That means we did everything. Now whatever is going on, it's a small adjustments, nothing else. But the major part, we actually have freezed everything. Code have been freezed, business automation have been freezed. So now what we are doing is just in a small adjustment, right? But the major part was to develop the project that is completed, to perform the deployments and handle, pre-deployment and post-deployment issues, that is also completed. To inform to the client that we are ready with the first release, that is also completed. What is going on? CR is going on. In fact, CR also has been completed. Now we are having the first stable version, the first release of that product. And that is where I asked my manager that now I wanted to have a release from this organization. I'm looking for some other career options. So when this is a genuine responsibility. If even you wanted to make a switch, first of all, finish whatever you are having. Because if you leave an organization in middle of the development, it becomes very hurdle for everyone. Don't do this, although you are going to get an hike. See, in Salesforce there are so much of opportunities out there. But then you have to be like, what I could say would be like, you have to be very uh I'm not getting the proper word to describe that. जिसको बोलते हैं ना, क्या बोलते हैं कि वो ईमानदारी के लिए जो भी वर्ड होता होगा, तो for that, at least not with your employer, try to give justice to your work only. All right, the dependence is what you are having on your shoulder, उससे भागो मत कभी भी. Opportunities तो बहुत मिल जाएंगी आपको. But let's say somebody has leave and you have been joined in the middle of organization, middle of development. Now you wanted to see कि what are the entities that are having a relationship in between, because you must also, when you are when you are joining something in a middle and you don't know about the entities, you don't know. So they would give you a significant time to make a research, something called as proof of concept, POCs on that. All right. So when you are researching something and you wanted to know what are the entities over there, and the second thing what you wanted to know is, I mean, is the entities are having relationship in between. So what you would be like, you will bring the entities onto this particular canvas, schema builder. So schema builder, there are so many different uses of this. You would be going to learn gradually all of them. But the most important use, from my perspective, from my point of view, the most important use of a schema builder is to project whether or not these two entities are there are two entities which are having relationship. If I wanted to see, okay, account and case, these are two individual objects, is there any relationship between them? I would bring these two onto the canvas. I would bring these two onto the canvas. All right. So schema builder, it's a graphical tool, and there are so many things what the schema builder can do and display. But the most important part is like, you came to know about that. If there is a relationship between entity to entity, that is simple, that is highlighted over here and very effective. So that is what a benefit with, schema builder when you're looking. There are some other tools as well, workbench and all that. You will not going to understand it right now. But I would be showing you workbench. Don't worry, I would be showing you workbench during our integration. During our integration, I would be showing you what is a workbench. What is a workbench and how to integrate Salesforce with the workbench, and how workbench, by using a workbench, you could even uh, use the objects of Salesforce. All right. So we will be using this environment, but later on, not right now. So these are the different ways. These are the different ways. All right. So tomorrow would be like, I would be explaining you how to create custom objects, how to create the custom objects by tomorrow. But before that, I'm having a very important discussion to be get done. And this I would be, this I would be doing by stopping the recordings, because that is something where I would require to show you a real time thing. All right. See, understand one thing. Understand. This is a very important discussion. Please listen this very carefully. Don't slip. If you wanted to sleep, go sleep. But the things what are not recorded, you won't get it. Only the things which are recorded would be there. See, as an architect, all right, as a senior developer, as a technical lead, whenever I have been exposed to any requirement, whenever I sit with a client and we discuss the requirements, that what he wanted, or rather, what are the things he is having with us. When we are developing something in the Salesforce CRM, now as a senior person, as an experienced person, I know one thing, that Salesforce is very rich in terms of objects. Salesforce is very rich, in terms of object. Yes, I know, I know. Shadab, don't worry, don't worry. I know where to stop the recordings and where to not. But thank you so much for acknowledging me. But I know whenever, I know where to stop the recordings. All right. Thank you, Shadab. This part I wanted to be recorded. That is the reason the recordings are still on. What I was saying. Huh. Whenever, see, understand, Salesforce, what? Salesforce is very big and it is having so many objects. There are so many ready-made objects that are already available inside the Salesforce, that are already available. There are so many objects. If you really wanted to see, to go to developer console, go to developer console and then go to the file menu, right? I just press Control O and then object. You would going to see the names of all of the objects. Salesforce is very big and very rich in terms of standard objects. There are more than 1,000 standard objects in Salesforce. More than 1,000 standard objects. Some of them, they are grouped. Some of them, they are grouped according to clouds. Some of them are not. I mean, there are a few of the objects that usually belongs to Sales Cloud. Some of them belongs to Service Cloud, Marketing Cloud. And there are so many objects that commonly can be used in any cloud, in any application. Even in the Community Cloud, the Experience Cloud, Collaboration Cloud. There are so many things, right? I just wanted you to understand one fact over here, that Salesforce is very rich and having so many of the standard objects. All right. So when I sit in a meeting with client and when we mark everything, and we see, and we have to see like what are the entities are over there. You know, we first of all try to cover every entity with the existing standard objects of Salesforce. For that, you should have a detailed understanding of every object. You should understand what is a role of account object, what is the role, what is the purpose of campaign object, contact object, cases object. So what we usually do is like, we first of all try to cover everything, try to cover the most of the business entities. We always try to cover most of the business entities from the standard objects. And if there is nothing, if for example, it happens every time. There are few of the entities over the client end which cannot be covered by the existing objects. For that particularly, we built the custom objects. Because see, for the custom objects, you are having governor limits, 2000 custom objects in case of the unlimited edition, and 400 in case of your developer account. You could create maximum of this much. For the custom object, there are the governor limits. There are limitations. That is the fun thing. That is the first thing. There's one more thing. Even I don't even bother about governor limit. 2000 is बहुत होता है. I understand इतना जान ही जाते हैं अपन. But there is, one important thing. There is one important thing for this. अभी बहुत डिटेल डिस्कशन है, बहुत ध्यान से सुनो. आई डोंट नो वेदर मैं 20 मिनट में कवर कर पाऊंगा कि नहीं कर पाऊंगा. सीम्स टू बी अ वेरी स्मॉल थिंग, बट ये जो बात मैं अभी आपसे कर रहा हूँ ना, ये बहुत वैल्यूएबल चीजें हैं. ये बहुत एक्सपीरियंस वाली बात है. So whenever we sit in a meeting with client, we first of all would try to cover the entities from the existing Salesforce standard objects. All right. Now let me try to demonstrate you something. All right. So yes. So whenever we made an initial interaction and we try to grab the things on the client entity. So that time, we first of all, try to cover the things from the existing Salesforce object, the standard objects. What is the reason for doing this? I could have all 8 to 10 custom objects. No problem. Salesforce allow me to have 2000 different custom objects. No problem. All right. But yes, let me try to show you something. See, when you create a custom object, all right, when you create a custom object, if for example, see, whenever we work, all right, we always work on sandbox. Understand what is a sandbox? It's a test environment. All right. And this one is production. You would be going to learn everything in a deployment. Don't worry. This is my prod environment, production. All right. And we always work on where? We always work on sandboxes. Okay. We always work on sandboxes, developer box, sandbox, whatever you wanted to see. There are so many different forms of sandboxes. There are so many different forms of sandboxes. Like there's a developer sandbox, there's a developer sandbox. There's different forms of that. Developer sandbox. All right. There could be for example, maybe a full copy, or maybe a partial copy, first of all. Partial copy sandbox. There could be a full copy. Which is generally also known as UAT environment, Universal Acceptance Testing, UAT environment. And then there's in production. So this is the usual phase. Whenever we develop something, we don't develop it onto prod. We always do the development in sandbox. Sandbox is what? It's an R test environment. Right? So it is usually like, you develop something onto the sandbox. You deploy this. The word deployment itself, the meaning of deployment is this: migrating whatever the things you have developed from one environment to another. And it is usually from lower environment to the higher environment. This is what is the meaning of deployments. So I have developed something onto developer sandbox. I deployed this to partial copy. The other people, senior members, they will going to test it onto partial copy. From partial copy, I'll deploy it to full copy UAT environment. Here the clients are usually involved. They will test it onto UAT first. And once they give us a green flag, then we would final deployment. This is the final process. When the project has been completed, you come up with this. Every testing and all that, this is done inside this environment. This environment is not for the testing. Prod is the final version, the finest version of a release. We don't do any changes in the prod. Actually, Salesforce itself don't allow you to do any changes in it. If you want to do the changes, you have to first of all do it in the full copy and then do the redeployments and all that. So see what happened. Understand one thing. If you develop something, see, this is the most important. If you develop something in, for example, you created a set of custom objects over here. Then during deployment, you have to bring every custom object into the sandbox. From if you are doing the deployment, you have to deploy the custom objects as well, from here to here. Because see, this sandbox, I mean the custom objects what you have created is there inside developer sandbox. But when you are migrating something, when you are asking somebody to test it in the partial copy, so these objects are not there, you have to bring it. You have to migrate this to the full copy, and then you will ask the client to perform the testing. And once everything has been done, you have to migrate the same thing to the prod. So if you see the number of the custom objects, whatever you create, you have to see for the deployments as well. So if I have created a custom objects, I have to do the deployments. And it is not a simple thing. You don't just deploy the object, you deploy along with the object, you deploy all of the fields, you deploy all of the approval process, you deploy all of the workflow actions, you deploy all of the workflow emails, validations, page layouts, templates, actions, profiles, automations, everything has to be deployed. So this, we will be going to learn the deployment. I will going to make you understand what is pre-deployment phase, what have to do before deployment. This kind of thing, ये जो मैंने list बनाई है इस तरह से, that is pre-deployment. What are the things you should be handy, with pre-deployments, and then during deployment, how you should behave during deployment, and after deployment, post deployment. So we would going to we would going to bifurcate this topic into three different phases: what needs to be done before deployment, and after deployment, and during deployment, pre-deployment, post deployment, and during deployment. अभी तो मैं ऐसा आपको मिक्स करके पढ़ा दे रहा हूँ, बट ये बाद में ऐसा. तो if you have created custom objects, you have to take care of so many things, so many things. It is not just about migrating that custom object along the fields. No, there's a complete set of list of all those activities, all those things that you have to take care while deployment. So it's a kind of overhead. It's a kind of overhead. As many number of custom objects you are having as many, that much number of overheads on you. So we try to avoid this. And see, now if you have जैसे मैंने आपको बताया कि out of 8 entities, seven entities I have covered with the existing Salesforce object. Account is there inside developer sandbox. I don't require to deploy. Partial copy, this is also Salesforce environment. That is having all, see, whatever the standard objects are available here, they are available here as well. They are available here as well. And they are even available in the prod as well. If you have developed your logic, if you have used standard objects, you simply don't require to deploy the things. No, they are automatically available in every environment. Why? Arey, developer sandbox be Salesforce hai, partial copy be Salesforce hai, full copy production, everyone is what? All of them are Salesforce environment. Whatever you are having over here is over here, is over here, is over here, everywhere. That is what a benefit. और ये आर्किटेक्ट लेवल का नॉलेज दे रहा हूं मैं आपको. इसलिए तो बोलता हूं मैं कि आपके पास जो आपकी ट्रेनिंग से जो आपको नॉलेज मिलता है ना, अगर आप 3 साल का भी एक्सपीरियंस अपने रेज्यूमे में पुट करते हो, कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं. बिकॉज जितनी चीजों की गहराई से आपको पता है उतना नहीं पता होता है किसी को, फ्रेशर को बिल्कुल भी नहीं होता है. तो whenever we try to match the requirements with the objects, creating a custom object is my last priority. Always creating a custom object is my last priority. Why? Because I know what are the overheads of creating a custom object. In one environment, it seems to be very simple. But then we always have to do something called deployments. Whenever we develop something, we always develop it inside a sandbox environment. But this is not being developed. This is not being developed for this environment. We are developing it over here because we wanted to do the migration in later coming days. So if you have done everything with the custom object, it becomes a very tedious job. Understand one thing. So as an architect, try to think out of the box. Try to cover the entities with the existing Salesforce objects, standard objects, because Salesforce is very rich in terms of standard object. बहुत सारी objects हैं ऐसी, but you have to know the nature of everyone. आपको उसके नेचर को समझना पड़ेगा, जिसके लिए थोड़ा सा वक्त जरूर लगेगा. But then you would be having a clarity of this. It becomes a crystal clear things that for this purpose, for this requirement, I could select account, I could use contact, I could use product, I could use quote, I could use price book, I could use campaign, I could use campaign members, I could use price book, whatever, right? So you have to have a study about the objects. But this is always good. This is always good to map everything with the standard object. Deployments में बहुत आसानी जाती है दोस्त, बहुत. बट अगर आप कस्टम की तरफ जाते हो, जितना कस्टम करोगे एप्लीकेशंस को, उतना ओवरहेड बनता है, उतना ओवरहेड बनता है. चलो, दिस वाज वन थिंग व्हिच आई फील इट वाज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, बिकॉज ट्रेनिंग्स में आपको ऑब्जेक्ट क्या है, क्रिएट कैसे करना, मैनेज कैसे करना, वो सब तो बता दिया जाएगा. लेकिन ये जो चीजें हमने डिस्कस करी आज, ये शायद ही कोई बताता, शायद ही. ऑलराइट, चलो, लेट्स स्टॉप दिस बाय टुडे. Stop it over here. I don't take your question. I cannot take because I'm having only 2 minutes with me for next batch. We are going to meet by tomorrow morning. Thank you so much for joining. Have a great day.